All right, we are officially live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. If you give me just a thumbs up, Warren, I see you out there, and I will answer that here in a moment about CanJam. But we're grabbing a drink really quick here, just some non-fancy Breckenridge to calm the nerves a little bit for us. So hopefully video feed is good as well. I think I did about a dozen tests over the last 24 hours on this to make sure everything is in sync. So I really hope it's all in sync.
Should I check my mic? Testing, testing.
Yeah, I mean,
make sure you can hear us both.
Also, if you see me looking this way, that's me looking at my laptop, and up there is at the other TV that we've got broadcasted, and obviously the camera's in the middle, so I'm going to forget where I'm supposed to be looking as we're going through this stream. Not that I think that matters a ton. Oh, let's do a cheers. Yeah. Cheers to 2 hours with no kids.
Woohoo!
So we had 4 days with it. Now we got 2 hours.
We always have to get a babysitter for anything we do. So our kids are pretty wild.
All right. So did we have a good time at CanJam? We had an excellent time at CanJam in New York. And really just, I think I said this on the feed, even on the Head 5 forums, that I think taking nothing away from CanJam, I just had an excellent time in New York because we had never been there before, and it was such a cool experience for some Midwestern people, at least I am, to never get out of Indiana, except for going to SoCal and maybe Florida, and seeing New York it was like being in our own movie. It was pretty cool. Yeah,
I completely agree. New York has always been a dream of mine, and it was just incredible, and it was just nice to get away because we don't get very many vacations. So no, we definitely do not. This was our first time, other than Chicago CanJam last year. We were away from the kids for 2 days, so this was the first time of multiple days like that. No accidents happened at home this time. Yeah.
Not to get too much into that, but we had some family emergencies last time. So
I think it's funny to say though. Yeah, my mom fell twice. 911 was called, and on our way home, we had a tornado hit 3 miles from our house. So my mom was like getting our kids in the downstairs bathroom, and so it was nerve-wracking. And I know he says 2 days, but it was like more like a day and a half was the gist of how long we were gone. So we were pretty nervous to do like 2 full days, and then the other 2 days of ours was travel, but we left later in the afternoon. So it was like almost like 3 days away. But I kind of wish though we would have, I mean, now in hindsight, knowing that it went so well with my mom and sister watching them this time, I kind of wish we would have had an extra day in New York. But yeah,
same. I think we make this a yearly thing like we're talking about doing. We'll try to figure out a way to give us at least till Tuesday, because it would have been a lot of fun to have Monday as well. Hey, Anthony from UK. Thanks. Yeah, these t-shirts are like, I liked all the CanJam t-shirts. These are probably my favorite yet that I saw. I actually wasn't going to order them this time around, and then when I saw the picture of them, I was like, okay, we're going to get these t-shirts. So yeah, they turned out really well. I really like the Singapore t-shirts. I don't think I even showed you those.
You didn't.
They look like, soccer uniforms. They're really, really cool as well. So yeah, exactly. There's always next year, and that's what I'm looking for, Warren. So by the way, hello, Warren.
Hey, Warren.
Nice for you guys to join. Anybody else that chimes in, whether you see this now or later, feel free to jump into the chat and say anything, ask us anything, have any kind of discussion you want while we're talking and rambling on. But then after this will be basically a video. So if you guys got any comments afterwards, definitely drop them in the comments on the video. I'll be checking in on it, and I'll definitely respond back when I get a chance to. So I've got kind of somewhat of a rough outlined agenda for this stream for you guys, and I know these things will always kind of take a left turn at some point as we get questions and things that pop up or anything like that. So I really just wanted to start with our trip to New York first, just because that in itself was an experience for us. You want to talk about the not the flight, I mean everybody flies and things like that, but you want to talk about the subway system.
Yeah,
maybe we'll start with that, or what you heard about the subway system before we headed out there.
So I had pitched going by subway after the airplane to Ryan, just because I was kind of Googling. I knew we were going to get in at rush hour, and I was like, what does it really cost in New York to take an Uber, that kind of thing. And so Googling that, I was like, I don't know that we want to spend $100 to go 8 miles. So I started looking for alternative routes. I'm comfortable with subway systems. I've done subways in like Pittsburgh and Boston and San Francisco. So I felt good about it as long as I knew we got on the right train. So luckily Ryan was open to that. And then we were set on that the entire time. And a day before we were due to leave, the governor of New York had, it made like national news that they called for like 1,000 National Guard and military and police to patrol the subway systems because they said there was like really high, dangerous violence taking place in the subway system. So,
no joke.
So my whole family's like texting us and saying, you know, are you sure you want to go by subway? And then other family was like, actually, this might be to your benefit because it actually might be more safe going by subway. So we decided to stick with it. And I'm glad we did because even with the timing that it said it was supposed to take, I think it said like from the airport to take the shuttle to the subway to then take the subway into New York City. It was supposed to take like 50 minutes. And I think all in all, it was like a half hour. So it was a fast trip and we were to our hotel in no time.
Yeah. Yeah. We were safe. Nobody scared us. So
no.
Yeah, we were good.
Yeah. I mean, there weren't even any police like at the subway system when we got there. And there was, it was all good. No issues.
No, none at all. And, the first thing I think I learned very fast about never being in New York was just how, I mean, you always hear about how it's such a fast pace, on the go town. Everybody's got somewhere to be. And if you're in their way, you better move. So I learned that very fast as I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, all right, I just need to stop saying excuse me and just
we're
knock
just
people
too polite.
over.
I think there was like we were walking side by side and crossing a street and there were two couples side by side. I don't even know if those two couples knew each other, but they were walking pretty fast at the same time. It was like the game Red Rover. Like I'm trying to come through and I wanted to move, but then I had to like squeeze between them because nobody was moving. So unless I went far left or far right, there was no getting around them. And they just walked right through me. They did not care.
No, absolutely did not. Michael, hello, first of all, and no new ZMFs for me this year. I've got my closed atrium and my O-Tour Classic still. I'm eyeballing the open Bokeh though. I'll talk about that in a bit, but I really like the sound of that headphone, and so I wouldn't be surprised if that joins the collection, but those aren't out yet. So.
I like it too.
Yeah, no, they were really good. So, all right, we'll move on to that and actually talk about CanJam. I just wanted to kind of set that up for you guys just because we don't get out much, in case you couldn't tell. So it was kind of fun to have that experience. So, I will say, like, when we got to CanJam on Saturday, because, Friday was food and all that, and I can talk about our food restaurant experience here in a bit. But when I got down there on Saturday, I knew it was going to be a big turnout. And you got to remember, for a trade show, I know you had made the comment, you're like, it didn't seem like that many people. I'm like, for a CanJam, yeah, there was like 150 people in line waiting to get in. I do have some photos and things that I took, and I'll try to manage talking and going through some screen shares. I don't have a picture of that. I have a video of it. But it was impressive when we walked down. I remember I looked and I was like, wow, this is the most people I've seen waiting to get in. And that was at, SoCal, which was at the time their biggest event last year. And then this year I could definitely tell on Saturday it was the biggest event. Definitely was a different experience on Sunday, which I was thankful for. Not in a good or bad way, just for my own personal listening experience, it was nice. But Saturday was just impressive, seeing all those people lined up, ready to go, and wanting to get into the show. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah.
To experience. So, and bumped into quite a few people that were in line as we were all waiting to get in, grabbing t-shirts and whatever else we had to get. So I'm going to set this up and just tell you guys, on day one, I think I still didn't get an actual count of this because I take notes, but I don't always take notes on something. I think I listened to 6 things on day one. And that wasn't because I didn't want to listen to things, or it wasn't because I wasn't interested or we weren't at CanJam the whole time. I just spent so much time interacting, talking with people. Our buddy Alex was there, and we spent a good couple of days with him. And, just that's what I enjoy about CanJam a lot and the trade show a lot, is just being able to interact with so many people and see people that I don't get to see except through a computer screen on forums and things like that. So that's a lot of fun to do that. And then actually spending the time sitting down. It was tough on Saturday, wouldn't you say? I mean,
yeah, I would agree. It just, you're walking around and you kind of have to, if you've never been to a CanJam, you have to kind of like, there's always somebody at the booth. It's rare you're going to walk up and there be an empty spot. So you kind of just hang out and stand behind somebody and hope that they're not going to take a half hour on a headset. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty packed in there. I mean, if you weren't just directly behind somebody, you were standing behind a couple people in line, basically lining up.
Yeah, definitely. And Anthony, yes, we did stay in the same hotel. Hotel was nice. Yeah. Actually, really fast, I got to say, the elevator system at the hotel was very like nothing I've ever seen before, and took me a couple of chances to figure it out, because they have 16 elevators.
Yeah, and it's all once in like a circular, like a horseshoe, but then with elevators through the center too. So it's like
you pick your room you want to go to, and then it's like, go to this elevator, and sometimes it's all the way around. And so you're like running over there because the door doesn't stay open long anyways. It's
efficient. Funny. It's very efficient.
Yes. It's New York.
you got to catch up.
And you get out, and you better hurry or you're catching the next one. So, but yeah, I mean, we did stay in the same hotel, and it was a very, very nice hotel. So, but I will say, like on day one, I'm kind of looking at, actually, no, before I get into that, I don't want to forget to say, to the HeadFi group, Warren, all of your gang there, you guys did an excellent job. I mean, every show has been excellent, so I don't want to say this one was anything better than before, but to have as many companies and vendors and reps and everything that were at the show, and actually spread out really well. I didn't feel like it was cluttered. There's a lot of people, visitors like us visiting, but I felt like nothing was kind of stacked on top of each other. Everybody had their own space. I don't know about the, I can't remember the name of the amp that was set up outside the door, but I remember I told you, I was like, oh, I wonder if they were a late edition. And so they gave him like a table right outside the door, because it was it was full on the inside, but it was well spread out to where you could go booth by booth and not feel like you were kind of walking over somebody or anything like that. And then they had, of course, the side rooms with, their usual ZMF and Dan Clark and DCS rooms and things like that. It was a very well set up event, and very spaced out for being able to have a good experience. So, I mean, I can't imagine managing all that, just talking to Zach and like what he has to go through to get his stuff from ZMF there. It's incredible. And that's just one company out of everybody that is there. So yeah, it's incredible. And just please send our regards to HeadFi, because you guys did an awesome job.
Incredible job.
Mytek, thank you. I couldn't remember the name of it, but am I right about that, Warren? I don't know if you can tell me that or not, but I feel like, were they a late edition to be sitting out there, or is that like prime real estate space because they wanted to be the head of the show? I don't know, but it was pretty cool just to see them right outside of there. And that amp, I didn't get a chance to listen to it, but I think I got a picture on here somewhere. I might pop that up here in a bit and show you guys. So, but the first thing I know we started with was ZMF. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first thing we started with on Sunday as well. I swear it's like HeadFi/ZMF event, because I feel like everybody that goes there heads straight to ZMF. I mean, how can you not, with what Zach has accomplished with that? Zach and Bevan both have accomplished with this company, and just an incredible amount of gear there. I'm going to let you talk, and I'm going to get some photos up.
Okay. Yeah, like he said, I mean, ZMF is such a popular stop there. I mean, I hear even people around me, like when we're just, waiting and standing around, they're just like, I'm going to go back to the ZMF room. I'm going to go hang out in the ZMF room. I'm going to stay here a little bit longer. So, it's just always an experience in there. Like I said last year on our video, I mean, it really is like a candy store. Like you go in there and there's all these beautiful headphones, and they just have their own craftsmanship and so unique, and it's just an incredible spot to be. And I will say, getting in there on the first day is pretty important, because they sold a lot of headphones that day.
I'm sharing these photos now. You can keep talking, but I just want to kind of walk you through some pictures here. So this is the Aegis amp. This thing was incredible. This is just one of them that they had. They had quite a few of them set up there, but beautiful amp, beautiful sounding amp. We got a chance to talk to the co-creator of the amp that they have. It's a DIY amp, and it is beautiful. And guys, I apologize if there's chat popped up. I won't see it till we get off these photos. Or actually, yeah, Bree's got her phone up. So we got a couple of pictures of that. That was kind of their room setup. Like I said, I mean, it's hard to tell from this, but there's actually quite a bit of space in there to walk around, I would say. And like, you know, lots of setups that ZMF had. You can see me sitting there, and next to me there is my buddy Alex on my left. Shout out to Be Supreme. So he was there both days with us. Really cool guy. But then, you know, more photos here of ZMF. That is actually the closed Caldera I was listening to on the Aegis. Incredible listen. Probably more so, nothing against the Caldera close, but just the amplifier itself is a very, very nice amplifier. There's a shot of the closed Caldera. I can't wait to see some stabilized versions of that, especially with the different design that Zach's got going on, with kind of the, squared off of the cup on the outside, so it's not completely rounded like
I think that's really cool.
It is very cool. And then there is the, I'm pretty sure that's either, I think that is a open Caldera. There's one of the closed atriums, I believe. Anyways, I'll just pop through some of these pictures. No Tour Classic. He's always got kind of an artsy show going on with all of his different cups and things that he has. That's something that Zach has just always done so very well with his room. And it is like a kid in a candy store if you love the audio hobby. And with Bree, I think this has kind of drawn her into the hobby a little bit more too, as she sees things like this, more of the Aegis.
I like pretty things.
Now, this right here is the open bokeh. And behind that is actually the new Cayenne stack that I am hoping to get in at least a third of that stack for a test and a review. And that's the bottom one there. If you're looking at that, that is the IHA 8. So that's Cayenne's new updated version of basically the Cayenne IHA 6 that I own. But that's an entire new stack by Cayenne. And I got to say, the IHA 8 I thought was an excellent pairing with the Bokeh Open. It still kind of has a intimate type feeling with the sound. It's the Cayenne amps, at least the ones that I have, not the tube amps, but the solid states aren't very spacious in their stage, but it doesn't bother me at all. The Bokeh Open just sounded incredible. Had a lot of low-end presence with that, and just that entire stack was nice. How hot did that stack get?
It was incredibly hot. I know when I sat down, I wasn't expecting it. Like I don't know these things about amps, and I went to turn up, like, I think the volume was right by where it was hot, right? So I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I started like seeing how hot it was for every level. Like obviously the bottom level was definitely where all the heat was coming from, but yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, I actually got on the Head 5 forums and was kind of talking about the IHA 8 for those people asking about it, and I remember saying that about it being so hot, and I think Andy Kong of Cayenne that's on there told me, he's like, yeah, that's, if you have it on the hyper mode like it sounds, it's hyper. It's like getting really active and hot like my son does when he's sweating because he's running around too much. But it's kind of the same thing. So he said it's nothing to worry about. That's just part of the amp and what it does when you have that mode set on there. And there's heat sinks on the side. So, I mean, it's dispersing the heat fine. It's not doing any kind of damage. But I definitely enjoyed that with the Bokeh Open and hope to have that in to be able to test. So now I could go on and on about ZMF, but I do want to talk about DCS because they were very hospitable, I gotta say, and a lot of the exhibitors are, but we're talking about a company that there's nothing budget in DCS that you can get, and they were extremely, like I said, hospitable and just explaining, their units that they have, letting us have a nice sit down and intimate listen with them. There was actually a seminar that I caught from Susan Rogers, which was, thanks for the tip on that, Warren, for me to check out, because that was very educational for me. And I'll talk about that in a second because Bree didn't actually get a chance to sit in with that. But what was your thought about DCS? What did you
like you said, they were very just genuine and just awesome. Georgia, Christy, they both were just incredible. And I think by the time we got in there and we were trying out the Lena stack, I know it was a good listen for me. If you've seen some of our videos before, I am not the audiophile, so it's always always an experience for me. But I know, so we had the Spirit Torino the latest from Spirit Torino. I don't know what the names of the headphones are, and then we had an Odyssey.
Right, the Odyssey was the LCD5, and that's that kind of blurry picture there, but that's the LCD5. Yeah, that's the Spirit Torino she's referring to there. Go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah, so and so I started with the Spirit Torino, which I could tell like it was very pretty as I was listening. I listened to a lot more kind of singer-songwriter music, so I like that vocal forward, but I also like acoustics of, guitars and sound and whatnot. And so, yeah, so I was listening to some of my singer-songwriter type music, and their voices were coming out really pretty, but I could tell something just seemed off. Like, beautiful sound, but I was like, doesn't quite sound like the artist, or the music doesn't quite sound like how it should be. And that was something I hadn't really experienced with headphones. So I finally... I was going to stop after that, and then I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to try out this Odyssey headphone now. And so plugged it in, and then I realized I was like, oh, there it is. Like that's Stevie Nicks' voice. Like that's the music that I was expecting to hear. So it was really cool to see the differences between that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. It was the Centauri. I had to look that up because I didn't write that down. But yeah, that was the Centauri from Spirit Torino. And yeah, the LCD5, it's an amazing headphone in its own. On other amps I've heard it on the Lena stack was absolutely incredible. One thing about Odyssey headphones, it's something they're very well known for, is just their ability to EQ them and to kind of make them your own. And that's the other nice thing about the Lena stack, is it's got a lot of those kind of settings built in. I don't know what setting I was on, but whatever setting I was on for their EQ profile, I think it was set up for the LCD5. I didn't want to turn off of it, because when I did, I was like, no, let's go back. That was the right sound. So, I mean, yeah, it was an incredible room to visit and just spend some time there and talking with, again, the reps there, and just, yeah, I mean, just a fun listen, and honestly spend a lot of time there. That's the reason why I only got to listen to 6 things on Saturday, because some of the rooms you get to spending a lot of time, you get to talking about things. Next thing you know, you're looking up and it's like, wow, we've been here almost an hour already. But that was an hour well spent, if it was an hour. But then the 30 minutes, I do want to talk about the Susan Rogers seminar for you guys that are interested in that. I have a video. I don't have a picture of her to pop up, but a lot of people know who she is. Worked with Prince back in the day, and I learned a lot of things about her I didn't know. And she actually has a book out as well that I'm really interested in picking up. But it was interesting because it was about, I think it's hyperacoustics of, basically how we hear and, why we hear the things that we do. And it was kind of sad, but also informative at the same time, that to be an analytical listener, you only have till age 12 to become an analytical. I was like, I got home and I was like, my son's name is Rune. I'm like, Rune, you're going to start listening to music every day now and become an analytical. I'm kidding.
He loves music though. Yeah.
No, he does love music, but yeah, it's interesting to understand, like, if somebody tells you I'm an analytical listener, okay, well, did you do that for years before the age of 12? Because that's how you establish that skill. It's kind of like an athlete for your ears. And it was incredible to listen through that. And, wouldn't be everybody's thing, of course, to listen to. But like I said, it made me want to pick up her book and kind of understand why we hear things differently. And I don't want to go on my tangent about measurements, but it's another reason why it kind of validated some of those things about measurements too, and why it's so important for your own personal perspective on what you hear. Audio is coming from one. Oh. Okay. Swapped audio. All right. Well, let me see if I can tweak a setting here, guys. Sorry about that. We won't have dead silence here, so let's see. As much as I messed with this, you would think. Let me try this setting, and you guys can tell me if this is any better. I went actually to mono instead of stereo, because it actually was in stereo. Go ahead and talk and see if it's going
testing
in and left and out of right or whatever.
Can you hear me?
Might just have to unfortunately deal with it and go with that, but we'll see. Susan Rogers was her name, and it's Rogers. Yes, that fixed it, or oh, okay. Switching to mono worked. Thank you. Thanks for the tip on the audio too. All right, so yeah, okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Well, I'll make sure next time we're doing a stream like this that I have it set to mono. So, but yeah, Susan Rogers was a very unique person to listen to and to just learn so many things about her life. And like I said, about audio, and I won't go into all the details. I took tons of notes on my own, but it was just good personal information to understand, like I said, the anatomy of the ear and just how that all functions and works. And, you know, when they say when you hit your 40s and your, you know, hearing degrades, it degrades. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. There's things that you can do to protect your hearing, of course, but, you know, age is always going to be a factor on everything, unfortunately, with our bodies and our health. So it was a good seminar to catch. So, let's see. After that, honestly, I'm trying to remember. Oh, we went to the Woo Audio and Abyss shared room, and I know you had a chance to listen to the Diana MR on the Tube Mini, which I love the Tube Mini. For you guys that haven't caught that video, if you want to talk about that.
I mean, I don't have much to say other than it was probably my favorite listen that I did. I mean, everything was so clear and perfect, and everything that I would want from a headphone experience I got with the Diana on the Tube Mini. So yeah, like it stood out to me as like one of my favorite moments at CanJam. So
I'm trying to find I've got a couple of photos of her with the MR and the Tube Mini. Mike from Woo actually, you know, showed me they have now the Tube Mini stand that they have made. It's basically a black box that the Tube Mini can rest on, and it will keep it powered and charged at all times. So it's basically just like, you know, like kind of she has her phone sitting there on a stand. It does that, but it obviously has more functionality in that because it plugs in and keeps it charged. I don't want to speak negatively on it, but it is pretty pricey yet. I think it was like $299 for the stand for it. But, you know, here, I got a picture of it here. I'll pop this one up. Let me switch over to this. But, I mean, it's a great idea because it is one thing that I talked about. Yeah, there's the stand. So that's one thing that I talked about when I did the video on the Tube Mini, was that it's not a device that you can just take and walk around with, because as you're walking around, you're going to get feedback and things. It's going to knock, and you're not going to be able to, you know, you're not going to be able to hear your music flawlessly. Whereas the stand lets you rest it on there. You can listen to your music just like Bree's doing there in the picture, and you don't have to worry about it knocking around or anything like that. It almost makes it like basically desktop mode, I guess you could say, but in a much smaller version of a tube amp. And, you know, anybody that hasn't heard the Tube Mini, or if you have, and if you can attest to this, it sounds like a legit tube amp. I mean, you wouldn't think something that small could sound as good as it does, but it just adds so much to an audio device. And really it's meant for full-size headphones, and that's what she was obviously listening to there.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about, was, you know, you see all these beautiful amps there, and I'm like, just having this moment with this little Tube Mini. And so I don't know, I think it's incredible that they can pack that much power into something so small.
This is what it sounds like. Are you talking about the pairing of the Diana MR, or what? You gotta tell me what you're talking about there. I think I missed that one. Too much focus on photos. Oh, sorry. No, that's the name of the book. Yes. Yeah, this is what it sounds like. Yeah, we were talking about the Tube Mini and the Diana MR. I'm like, wow, it only sounds like $16.12. So now I got you. Yeah. Yeah, that is the name of the book. Thanks for linking that. And yeah, that is definitely something that I want to pick up and check out. But yeah, she was a very, like I said, interesting person to be able to talk to and meet and just hear everything that she had to say. All right. So then after the Abyss Room, I kind of feel like that was almost wrapping up our first day. Because we had a couple of things in between there. I don't think we listened to any IEMs on the first day.
No, we saved that for the second day.
We listened to all headphones on the first day. And my buddy Rigo that works for Audio46, shout out to Audio46, by the way, because they support me quite a bit and I appreciate it. I didn't get a chance to really meet up with him on day one, not at the show anyway, as far as stopping by his booth. But afterwards, we went out for drinks, him and I and Alex and Brie, and, we had a good time. Through the horrendous rain. And I do think that's worth at least discussing, because I tell you, one thing that was funny was everybody we talked to, Warren included, and everybody else from New York, we're like, hey, where are some good places to eat? Get out of Times Square. Everybody's get out of Times Square.
They're like, walk blocks away, take the subway, do not eat in Times Square.
They're like, it's just a touristy area. And I kind of laughed at one point because I told Brie, I was like, but we are tourists. I was like, that's what we're here for. But I mean, I get it. I'd be the same way, if somebody were to come to the fantastic city of Greenwood and be like, where do we go eat?
I don't know. We have some good restaurants in Greenwood.
No, we do. But I'm just saying, I understand it when you go to somebody's town and they have like the tourist spot. Yeah, you want to find those more interesting places that aren't going to be your chained restaurants or things like that. Oh, we got out of Times Square on Saturday and we got soaked. But it was worth it. I still can't remember the name of the Korean restaurant. I should have wrote that down.
I didn't write it down either, but no, it was raining so hard. Like initially we knew there was rain in the forecast before we left. So we packed umbrellas. I know our friend Alex, he at first we started walking and he just had his like jacket and his hoodie up and he was like, oh, I'm good and then like suddenly it was like, okay, I need to pop into this store and buy an umbrella. Like we actually passed one store that had umbrellas outside, so he popped in, bought an umbrella. But even with an umbrella, there was so much rain. Our shoes, we were literally like, they were soaked and we were walking in puddles in the bottoms of our shoes. Like my jeans were wet from the bottom all the way to my knee. So yeah, it was a lot of rain and we did a lot of walking that night, but we weren't going to let the rain stop us. We wanted to see New York. We wanted to get out and eat at a nice restaurant, and that's what we did. And we made an experience of it and had a good time. So.
We did, and I would say, thankfully, it wasn't cold, because if it would have been cold on top of all that rain, that would not have been a good time. But that restaurant was excellent.
Yeah.
Didn't care for whatever drink they gave us.
It was sake, but it was a very sweet. I know you compared it to like a Zima
or like a Smirnoff or something from my.
I don't even think between the three of us we didn't even drink the whole bottle. Like it was like two shots, and we were like,
I even told Alex, I was like, "You want?" He was like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "Yeah, I don't need any more of that." So, yeah, I was trying to find a picture of it, but I don't have it on there. That's okay. But yeah, that place is really good. Yeah, the sake picture that we had. So, yeah, that was fun. And then, on day 2, Sunday, that was a much more chill day. Just going down, I mean, there wasn't even probably like maybe 50 people in line, I would say, for Sunday that were there. And, even at SoCal, Chicago, the other CanJams, I can say it's always more chill on Sunday. It kind of makes sense. Sundays, that's kind of how it is, especially for those of you that would have stayed out late and got soaked on Saturday. You probably didn't wake up as early on Sunday. Oh, yeah. Warren, Uber. There was no way we were going to do Ubers. We actually, since you brought that up, I will say, like, that's something we looked into when we got to New York, was taking the Uber to the hotel. And
it was around $80.
Yeah.
So the week before, I looked at Uber rates. I mean, we didn't look at them the day we went in because we had already made our mind up what we were doing. But the Friday before, at like rush hour, I decided to check what the Uber rates were, and it was running about $80. And that's before you even tip your driver. So, and it's only like 8 miles from the airport, but it was in rush hour. And obviously if there were traffic issues or whatnot, like that just would have added to the cost. So that's why we decided to do the subway. Like Uber was just ridiculous. So
yeah, it really was. But that's all right. Yeah, we still had a good time. But yeah, on Sunday, like I said, there was like maybe 50 people in line as we were getting in. And actually I have something I want to show you guys because I'm going to talk about it here in a second. We started at ZMF on day 2 as well. And I talked about the Bokeh that I liked so much, the Bokeh Open. And this combination that you are seeing here, behind that is the Benchmark HPA4. And I actually bumped into the company themselves, one of the reps that were there for Benchmark, and I was like, hey, you guys got yourself a golden amp there. I still didn't catch how much the amp was. If any of you know in the chat, you can pop it in there. But the HPA4 with the Bokeh open, with the Caldera closed, basically with any ZMF, I was like, I had to check for a second. I was like, is this a tube amp? Because it's so thick. It's not. But I mean, it just had that kind of thick sound to it. And I compared it. The Elysium is actually off to the left there, the big boy Elysium, not the portable one. And I gotta say, like, I love the Elysium amps. Don't get me wrong, but I preferred the Benchmark on the ZMFs over the Elysium just because it added a little bit of flavor to ZMF. ZMF is like I always think of their house sound. It's like a punchy, just dynamic, just fun, but still getting a good sense of details and everything that he does so well. And that Benchmark amp that was a really, really solid pairing. So if you get a chance to ever check out a ZMF with a Benchmark, I highly recommend you do that because it was a fun listen. I think you got a chance to sit down and even listen to that. I'm not sure if it was the Bokeh Open, but you got a chance to sit down and listen to that as well.
Yeah.
If I remember.
Yeah. I don't think it was the Bokeh Open. I'm not certain which one I was listening to, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you did.
But it sounded great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Breckenridge is good. I agree. And it's not overly expensive, which is awesome. So, yeah, it's good stuff. It's the amp that powers our measurement. Oh, nice. Did not know that. Obviously, that's cool, Warren. Yeah, it is a really good amp. It kind of makes my list now someday. I don't know. I've got a list of someday things. It's growing a lot. So we'll get to it at some point. Have a chance to audition the FATFreq Audio Envy 25th anniversary amp. So I'm going to disappoint you guys and tell you no. I wanted to. I had it written down, and in just the rush or whatever of CanJam itself and doing everything that we did, I missed it, and I was mad at myself for missing that because I heard how good it sounded from so many people. Even our buddy Alex, I don't think he got a chance to sit down and listen to it either. I shouldn't say got a chance. We just didn't remember to do that. That's what I should say, because we would have had a chance to do it if we wanted to. But yeah, I'm really disappointed in myself for missing that opportunity because that was actually one of the ones I wrote down to check out. So I can tell you, and I'll say this, and I'll probably, after this video is gone from live to anybody watching, I'll put a link in the description to the forums on HeadFi for the 2024 New York CanJam discussion, because there's a lot of impressions on there. There's a lot of really good articles written by people on there of all of their experiences on gear. I guarantee that's one of them on there, so that you can get an idea from it if you haven't already. If you're just wanting my personal opinion, that was my long-winded way of saying no, sorry, I did not get a chance to do that. What I did get a chance to see, I'll let Bree talk about this one. I don't even know the name of it, but oddball mannequin amp.
Oh, God. Oh, man. So
I shouldn't say oddball because it actually did sound good, but...
He's gonna pop a picture up here for you. Yeah, there we go. So when we first walked by this,
Ding.
we didn't realize. Like, I'm getting ahead of myself. We thought they were just mannequins showing off, and we're like, "Oh, yep. This is cool." Like, and then I think it was Alex that was telling us about the nipple tuning knobs.
Yes.
And we had to take another look and realize that it's the whole amp and everything. And yeah, you tune at the nipples, it plugs in where it plugs in, and
well, you don't tune. That's your left and right channel.
Whatever. I don't do audio. I don't know. I'm just here. I don't know. Whatever it is. But what I found funny was when we walked back there was the first time we saw the actual vendor or rep standing behind it.
There's Alex, by the way.
Standing behind it with his arms around front, moving the knobs, showing it off. And I have to say it just looked ridiculous. So
yeah. And like I said, it sounded good. It was actually an electrostat, so those are carbons, I believe, that they had paired up to it, and it did sound very good. And then the skulls that you see sitting next to that, I gotta say that was an excellent listen too. And I don't have the picture pulled up of the reel to reel. Yeah, I don't think I have a good shot of that here, but next to that, off to the right, there was actually a reel to reel system that they had set up. Now with that, obviously you're not going to be able to just pick whatever tracks you want to listen to because it's reel to reel. But I listened to that. Yeah, those knobs. I listened to that on the, they had the Focal Utopia. Wow. I mean, just wow. It was so impressive. Just that like old school analog listen with the reel to reel. And like I said, I don't even know what they had on the track. It wasn't my music. But even, Alex and I both just were blown away by the sound of that, of just how good that reel-to-reel sound is or was. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you for naming that, because I didn't even write it down, and that's a better name than the Nipple AMP. So yeah, it is. That is definitely a conversation piece. Like if I had that sitting inside my house and somebody walked in and be like, "Oh no, it works. Let me just show you."
Well, even your mom and brother were like, "That's so cool," and I'm like, they don't know what they're looking at.
No, I guarantee they probably thought it was just a mannequin as well, which would be cool. I mean, hey, it's a functional device. So yeah, so that was a lot of fun. I think that actually was on day one. Now that I think about it, not day two. I just forgot to mention that one. But day two, we listened to a lot of IEMs. And day two, I did spend a lot of time at the Audio46 booth. I listened to the Lyric 2, which I didn't spend a ton of time with because I'm actually getting it in. Should be coming, I think, Monday or Tuesday so that I can get some time with the Lyric 2 for a video. But I did get a chance to listen to that. I also listened to one of the Kennertons, and I'll have to pull up the photo so I can show you guys because, again, I didn't always write down good notes. And then I also listened to my first Grado. I had never actually listened to a Grado before because everybody always said it just stabs your ears to no end. So I wasn't ever interested, but it was actually a wireless Grado, and it sounded good. It was recommended from Rago at Audio46 to check it out. I was like, oh yeah, it actually does sound pretty good. What else did we listen to there? There was
that's the only one that I listened to.
Maybe you were just was the Grado?
Yeah.
That's right, because we just switched.
But I know you and Alex were switching off for a couple different
ones. Like I said, we did the Kennerton, the Lyric 2. Oh, that's right. The final D7000. I also listened to that headphone. Did not like that. But again, it was a CanJam listen, and I'll reference that many, many times through any time somebody asks me about an impression at CanJam, because your impressions can change definitely going from there.
Was that the one with the pads that were too hot?
It might have been. Which
one it was. I know there was one you said you didn't like only because it was the pads were real thick and like there wasn't much breathing.
I think it was the D7000 now that you say that. Yeah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't the Meze, because that's all their headphones are super comfortable to me. So, but yeah, I just wasn't very impressed with the D7000. And the Kennerton that I listened to, I need to find that photo here for you guys so you know what I'm talking about, instead of I'm just saying Kennerton. And I don't like to not be talking about something while we're doing this. So I do want to bring up a subject, and I'll get back to this because I wrote this down. I thought this was going to be important to cover because this was her third CanJam. This was my fourth. And there was a post on HeadFi that I want to address, not in a negative way. So please understand that, whoever had started kind of this conversation about this, but it was about CanJams and how noisy they can get. And somebody was basically just kind of saying like, hey, CanJam, everybody says it's so cool and fun, but my experience was there was so much noise, there were so many people, I couldn't get a good listen. I left disappointed. I think it was a New Yorker actually, because they talked about taking the subway to get there. And there was a lot of conversation that kind of chimed in from that about not necessarily other people chiming in on whether they agreed or disagreed, but just saying, well, that's kind of the CanJam experience. And then, sorry, did you listen to the Mass Kobo? I did. Yeah, I'll get to that here in a second. But Yeah. And I think my thought on that was kind of what some other people were saying on the forums too, is like, it's a convention that you're going to have a lot of people in, no matter what happens. It's unfortunately going to be loud. And you got to think about something too. Like myself, Bree, if I'm going to a booth, whoever it is, we'll just say the Audio46 booth, since we were talking about that. And I'm asking about a headphone, and I'm like, hey, what's the impedance of this? Some different things about it. You're going to have a conversation with somebody, and that creates noise, and everybody else is having a conversation about something like that, and that creates noise. And I get it. People have conversations amongst themselves that has nothing to do with audio, but in my opinion, that's just part of a convention. And I know that's not going to be something everybody likes to hear and understand, but I think what I'm getting at was they were asking, does anybody have any kind of solution? Or, do you have any ideas? I do have some ideas. And we were talking about this yesterday. And this is just me. I'm just spitting out some stuff I was thinking about because I love these events so much. And just like Headfi, I'm sure, wants to help everybody get a good listen, I thought, oh, what the hell? I'll just talk about it on the stream. So one thing I will say is when you go to, I'm going to use the amusement park or like haunted houses for an example. Like you go to these places and this crave now all of a sudden is like, or all the rave is fast pass. You got to spend an extra $100 and get your fast pass and cut the line and get in front of everybody else. It annoys the shit out of me, honestly, with all the fast pass stuff. But I do think that's something that possibly could be looked into on an event like a CanJam or another audio event. Not a fast pass. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about something related to that. So CanJam starts at 10 a.m. Obviously, you would have to be able to work with some different vendors and some different headphone companies for them to agree with wanting to do this, because you were talking about everybody's personal time with this. But I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be cool to have a way to, maybe an extra $10, and there's a listing of 10 seats that you get to check out. I'm just going to use ZMF for an example. Like, hey, I want to go to the ZMF room at 9:30. I'm going to sign up for one of these slots so I can go in there and sit down and have a listen before the whole rush of the crowd comes in. Now, I know that whenever you bring up money, that's always a touchy subject with people. Like, hey, I've already bought the tickets, why do I have to pay more? But for people like that, somebody like I'm talking about that addressed the noise issue and not being able to get their solid listen, I feel like that's your way of, if you're truly going after something, that's your way to be able to truly go after it. Like I said, this is just me spitballing stuff. I've talked to nobody about this. I don't know. You and I were talking about it last night.
Yeah, like I think like from what you were saying, it's like it would be nice if, if there was that price difference, there's only so many slots available. And maybe you go in like that, and if CanJam's opening up to the public, those, when I say the public, but everybody who bought tickets, if that's 10 a.m., maybe at, 9 a.m. or 9:30, there's those time slots for those people to go in and get a listen that isn't with the crowd of everybody else attending. So, I mean, I thought it was a great idea.
Yeah, like I said, it's not anything I'm trying to seriously pitch. I think that's what we do, right? We all try to share thoughts and suggestions for every next event and things, and ways that, maybe we could do something a little bit differently to help out people. And my thought on that is like, if I'm using a closed caldera for an example, I know I want to listen to a closed caldera. That is what I'm going to CanJam for. I walk into a room and it's extremely loud and whatever, that's kind of what I'm getting the sense of, at least for the person that brought that up. Like, hey, I didn't get a chance to really listen. Nobody would be quiet. Nobody's going to be quiet. You're not going to be able to do that. So being able to get in ahead of time or something and get a more personalized listen with something. And let's face it, if you're going to ask a company to accommodate that, then there's always going to be some kind of a cost. Yeah, VIP pass. Yeah, and that was my thought too, Warren, was I know it takes a lot of time to set up. And so that's why I was telling her, I was like, I don't know if it would work, because some vendors I'm sure are going to be a little, I don't want people in here messing around while I'm trying to get all my gear and everything set up. So yeah, I think it all just comes down to everybody agreeing on one thing. But, events like CanJam are like any other kind of convention. I mean, yes, they're there to show off their new products to consumers and for people to listen to eventually get sales. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, that's, you know, we love the hobby, but at the end of the day, it's all about, you know, being able to, you know, help somebody have a purchase decision on something. So I don't know.
And I just want to throw something out there too, for those that, you know, think it's too loud. I mean, of course it's loud. But even for somebody like me, who I've already told you is not, I don't know all the audio things that people look for when they're looking for a great headset, right? But I can still get a good enough listen to notice differences, even with the noise behind me. So, obviously your open back headphones, you know, you're going to pick up a lot more of that, crowd noise behind you. But I mean, I think I only had one headset that I literally, or headphone, I should say, that I literally maybe couldn't really draw like a conclusion on because of maybe the noise was interfering. But other than that, I mean, for somebody like me who doesn't know anything about it all, I could still like tell if it was something I liked. But if you really are going in there because you're considering buying something, and these headphones aren't cheap, so it's like I can understand wanting an actual, you know, listen on them. Because I know, like, even for our state, we don't have any kind of stores or any way to try, you know, so it's good you're a reviewer, but for just the general consumer, you know, they don't have access to that. So I can understand spending money for a ticket and then going there and being disappointed that they didn't get a solid listen, would be frustrating. So.
Yeah. No, I agree. And my other thing with that too is everybody listens at different volumes. Yeah. I mean, I'd say if it's true. So you're somebody that listens loud, they're probably like, what are you talking about? I heard everything just fine. Yeah. And so did I 3 seats down. But but I mean, hey, you know, it's part of it, right? Just turn the amp down when you're done. That's all I got to say. Little nugget I'll throw in there. But yeah, I mean, you know, different volumes. And I will say, like, IEMs, I think in general, if you're somebody that's really into IEMs, you're going to get a much better impression of those just because of the seal factor and everything of being sealed in. Closed back headphones, kind of, depending on what kind of closed back you're listening to. But yeah, I think we're more talking about open back headphones and that kind of thing. It's tough. I agree. Yeah. I will say one thing though, for anybody that watches this that maybe thinks about the noise issue, talk to whoever it is that you're wanting to listen to. You know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I can definitely tell you someone like Zach and Bevan, if you told them like, hey, I really like, you know, the open Caldera, but is there any way I can maybe get like a 5-minute listen off to the side somewhere? I'm sure if they can, they'll do it, if they can help you out with that. And I'm only using them as an example just because I know how kind and courteous they are to everybody. But I would talk to somebody, you know, if you're really serious about a product, why not? All they can say is no. I mean, they say no, they say no. That's fine. But I think it's worth the ask anyway. The other thing with that, and then I'll talk about Mascoba, is on the review panel, which we'll talk about that here in a minute too. I know that it was brought up during the review panel to bring your own music, to have a reference point. And I can't stress enough. I think Zeos was the one that talked about that a lot. And he is 100% right on that. I had music loaded up on my phone ready to go so that I knew what songs to listen to, because it is hard to get a good impression out of CanJam. I've always said that. I do have the benefit of being a reviewer so that I can get some things in depending on what it is, if I want to get a more extensive listen. But if I'm not listening to my own music and I'm just listening to whatever they got, I couldn't tell you. I mean, it's not a song I recognize. I couldn't tell you. And also the amp, the Dakoni Cobalt that I bought at CanJam, nothing against Dakoni guys. Those are super nice guys. So please take this with what it is when I'm talking about this. But that headphone sounded different at CanJam than when I got it home, because stupid me, I was listening on everything they had set up there. Right. And when I got it on my own setup, I was like, this doesn't sound quite the same as what I thought there. And, you know, that's so important to understand, you know, those differences that you're going to hear.
I still liked it. I mean,
I know.
But I will agree, because you let me hear it. The one that you bought with those same pads, you let me hear it last year at the Dakoni booth. And I was just like, wow, this has a lot of bass to it and all of that. And then when we got it home, you were like, man, I thought this had more bass to it than what we thought, you know? So yeah, I mean, the amp makes all the difference. So
yeah. And Leonardo, I mean, I agree with you, man. When talking about money has to be involved with everything, I get that 100%. That's why when I was bringing up the VIP idea thing that Warren was talking about, yeah, there's cost, unfortunately, has to be involved with everything. I understand that. And yeah, that is always going to be a thing that everybody has to consider in all parties. And then Warren, 100% agree with you. I've said this myself, probably not in that direct way that he has, in that it is hard to be able to tell when you really like something, but it is much easier to tell when you just don't like something. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up Spirit Torino. I haven't liked anything I've heard of theirs. And I've tried it. I've tried it on the DCS stack. I've tried it on all different things, and I haven't. And that's just my personal preference. And there's other headphones that final D7000 I did not like. I don't think it's going to change my opinion that dramatically if I were able to get it home. But if there's something I do like we were talking about with the Cobalt, then I got a more personal listen on my own music. Then I figured out, depending on the pairing, I didn't like it as much, or it wasn't in my preferences as much. So I do 100% agree with that, what you're talking about with understanding if you like or don't like something. And yeah, flaws. Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody that likes a lot of bass and you don't hear any bass, you're not going to magically suddenly get tons. I mean, yeah, unless, well, you know what I mean. EQ and things like that I get, but not every driver can take that. So the Mass Kobo amp. So sorry to leave you hanging on that one. Yes, I did finally get a chance to hear it, but I have kind of a short, funny story with a love-hate relationship with the Susvara. I have yet to hear a Susvara, and not because I haven't heard a Susvara. The Susvara just doesn't like me. So when I was at CanJam in Chicago 2022, when we went there, the Susvara that I listened to, for some reason they were having power issues. The volume dropped out. I didn't get a good listen. Then at SoCal, I listened to a Susvara and the same damn thing happened. The volume dropped out. I didn't get a good listen. And at Mass Kobo, they had it hooked up to Susvara, and I was like, oh man, this amp with Susvara, it's got to be killer.
Alex told you it was great because he got a listen.
And he had it set up so you had to plug in your own source to his cable. Guy got no audio. I swear the Susvara does not like me. But I'm talking about just that headphone. But I did listen to, I think they had, I can't remember. They had two other headphones there. One of them was a prototype headphone that I did not like at all. And that's got nothing that's got nothing to do with the Mass Kobo. But then the other headphone, it may have been a Focal, if I remember. It might have actually been the Utopia. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, the Mass Kobo amp is funny to me because it looks like something you would see out of like a 1950s like sci-fi movie, because it's just very unique, and it's not a next gen aesthetic to it, which I don't care. I mean, if it produces excellent sound, and it does, I mean, just pretty much everything hit on all cylinders with that amp. That's my quick like impression I can give you. I will tell you that aisle that we were in was loud. That is one of the areas I can tell you was definitely loud. So it was a little bit difficult, and especially with all the issues with sources that we had, it was hard for me to get just an excellent listen. But no, the Mass Kobo amp, I can see all the hype about it. We also listened to his portable version. That's, like that big, I want to say. It's kind of bigger than a Mojo 2, we'll say that. And I listened to that one on the Industrialist headphone, and it was okay. But again, it was that headphone, I'm sure, more than anything. Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. I know this as far as very, very pricey. I don't know. I mean, I have a love for the Caldera so much. That's forever going to be number one on my list of an expensive headphone one day that I am going to buy. I don't know when that day is going to be, but it's not this year. But I mean, it's going to be at some point, because I have yet to hear anything that trumps that from my personal preferences. Again, my preferences. And even the closed Caldera, I'll need more time with it. But man, I just loved the sound of the open Caldera. The Tungsten got close. It got really, really close. And I actually, speaking of the Tungsten, I did meet Ryan Dietz of Mod House there. Spent some time talking to him, thanking him for giving me some time with his headphone. And then he recommended I go check out the Tungsten on one of the Viva amps. Oh yeah. That was everything that the Tungsten needed. I got to say though, my HA3A that I have on my Tungsten that I did, my review on with the Tungsten, it sounded better on the Viva from audible memory, which is crap. I think A-being is much more accurate than audible memory, but It was an excellent sound with the Tungsten double-sided, but I still love the sound with my HA3A with that headphone too. He just has a phenomenal headphone, and the poor guy's backed up like 36 orders or something right now. But yeah, it just hats off to Ryan at Mod House for creating such an incredible device on that. So sorry, I've been rambling on and on as I got onto the Tungsten. There was that amp that was at the Tungsten though. Do you remember seeing that? It's called the Black Ice Moon. Black Ice Audio, one of the two. It just said Black Ice in the front. I thought that was a really that was at the Mimic booth. I'm going to catch up on some of the chat here. Love that it took forever by. Yeah, the 465 is, what is that, 17,000? Am I saying that wrong? Oh, you guys can tell me. No, the Mass Kobo amp.
Oh, yeah.
He had his pricing listing. I remember it was like
US
the big boy amp and then the portable. And I was like, wow, that's a big jump in price. But of course it's going to be. So, yeah, but I mean, it takes them like a year to make one. So, I mean, that's, again, going back to kind of that review panel, that was what they talked about too. Just the time and effort it takes to make some of these things is incredible. But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the Kobo. Honestly, all of his amps that he has, because he's done such an excellent job. Yeah, 17,000. That's what I thought. He's done such an excellent job making those amps and just the incredible sound that you get. And yeah, I mean, if you're gonna listen to a Mass Kobo amp, put a Susvara on it.
Hope you don't have Ryan's issues.
Yeah, don't use my phone and don't be around me if you're gonna listen to a Susvara.
Yeah, because we even tried to use. So Alex got to listen on it, and then my phone didn't work. Your phone didn't work with the cord, and then Alex gave us his phone, and it worked. I think for me, it worked for like 2 seconds, and then it cut back out. It never worked. I don't know.
The Susvara curse. I'm telling you. Warren's asking you your favorite experience, listening or otherwise, from the show.
For me, honestly, I think it was the Diana on the Tube Mini. That was probably mine. But again, I mean, I always
Diana MR.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, like I say, I'm not, I'm not the audiophile. I enjoy CanJam. I love it. It's an experience for me. I mean, I wish more women would join and come and, come check it out. I know, like, even your mom is always like, oh, Brianna's probably going to be so bored there and everything. And I try to tell her, like, I love music. And I mean, as long as you love music and, why not test it out on some high-end equipment, whether it's an amp or a headphone or something. So, so I enjoy my time there. But I'm not, the greatest judge of what's great. So
yes, you are.
For what I like, yeah, I liked the Diana. I know, it's one that's up there, but it sounded great to me. And then I did like the Boca Open, just like you. So not because you liked it, but I liked it.
I mean, it's something that Eric from Sennheiser said to me on the first CanJam we went to when we listened to the HE1, or that was the second actually. And I will never forget it. And I quote him all the time on it. He said, "This is the best hobby because it's the hobby where everybody's right." And it's true.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. If you love something and they hate something, that's fine. Agree to disagree and move on, because that's why you're saying you have every right to your own opinion of why you love something. You know what music sounds like. You love music. Yeah. And if your music sounds damn good on a headphone, then that's the right headphone for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was telling you, even with certain headphones, I could still tell that from the music I was listening to. Like, I'm like, wow, Adele's voice sounds really pretty in this, or, but I could tell it wasn't Adele, or Stevie Nicks sounds really great in this, but it didn't quite sound like Stevie. And I think it was Alex who told me, oh, that's the resolution in the headphone. So, it didn't mean that the headphone was bad. I mean, you might not have liked it, or Alex might not have liked it from like more of a, and, I know you won't say you're an expert at this stuff, but, at more of an expert level than what I am. Maybe that wouldn't be something for you. I wouldn't say they were bad headphones. They still sounded great, but I could tell there was a difference. So, it's like, I want the artist to sound like the artist, even if they still sound beautiful. So, yeah.
I want to talk about IEMs because I don't want to forget talking about those. I'm going to find some pictures. Do you want to start talking about Campfire? Because you got a chance to listen to the Campfire.
Yeah, you said I tried the Fathom.
Yes. Yeah, we both tried the Fathom. Yep.
I love their booth, first of all. I love all the colorful, like, different headphones, or IEMs, I should say. So I loved how they were set up and everything. Yeah, I know you're pulling up a picture of it. So I don't know. I love all the color. I love that they have these little trading cards too. I didn't grab any, but they looked cool, like these little packets of trading cards you could take. Yeah, so I had the Fathom. I got a really good listen out of it. I think maybe you enjoyed it. Yeah, those are the little trading cards that they put out. I know that you actually really loved it. I did. So I got a good listen out of it. And I only tried one of their, I don't know, how many do they have? I was going to say it's like
quite a few. Yeah. I mean, I'm showing the picture there. They had quite a few. We just listened to the Fathom. Only because I had heard a couple of them at SoCal. I heard the Bonneville, which I thought the Bonneville was good as well. But no, I wanted to check out the Fathom because I knew that was one of their newest.
Yeah, and I'm a little difficult with IEMs, mainly because I have really teeny tiny little ears. I always have to have the smallest tips put in them, and yeah, so and then I tend to have to really shove them in my ear just to get them in there. Which then once I'm listening, I can tell it's a little muffled. So then I got to like back it back out of my ear a little bit. So I'm still kind of getting used to the IEMs and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I liked Campfire. But I know that you really liked him more than even what I picked up on it, but it could just be me with the trouble with the putting them in my ears and whatnot.
I did. I don't do a ton of IEM videos, reviews and things just because it's not my comfort zone as much as headphones are. So I'm going to try to get myself into it more, but I need to listen to more high-end stuff. I mean, I hate to be that way and associate cost with quality because it doesn't always work that way. But with IEMs, everything I've listened to is like $200 or less and done a video on. And so every time I go to CanJam, I'm like, no. I want to hear, like, give me $1,000 IEM or a multi-$1,000 IEM. I want to hear that difference. And so that's why I went and listened to the Fathom. And some quick notes I wrote down: excellent resolution, had a lot of excellent low ends and mids. There was a nice crispiness to it, but it wasn't overdone. There was good spacing to it. The fit was comfortable. It was light. Fit's a big thing with me at IEMs because that's one reason why I don't really listen to them a lot, is I like putting stuff over my ears, not in my ears. And I paired it up with my RU7, which I take that with me to every CanJam. Side note there, if you guys go to CanJams, bring your own source if you can, whether it's a DAP or, like I said, my RU7 is a portable dongle amp that I love and I know it. It's a device that I know how that's supposed to sound. So when I pair something up to it, I get that sound out of it. But yeah, the Fathom was good. And I do believe I'm going to be able to get one in to do a video on, whether it's from Campfire or from possibly Audio46. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get one in to do a video. From there, we listened, actually right before them, we listened to Fat Frequencies because I wanted you to listen to the Scarlett Mini.
And I messed it up.
No, you didn't mess it up. I just was like, I was shocked. Tell them why. I mean, you can tell them about that. I'll find the picture of that one.
Okay, so he gave me the RU7, and so we're plugging in, and he sets it up for me. And I'm listening, and I'm getting a good listen out of it and whatnot. But I know that we had a conversation about it prior, and he was like, oh, it's really loaded with bass. So I'm like, okay, let me go through my playlist of my bassier songs, right? And I'm going through it, and I'm like, it's all right. I don't really notice like big difference. Well, once I had turned it off, and I kept thinking I was having volume issues because on the RU7, I was up to like a 90. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, maybe I should have my phone volume turned up. But it was only like, 3/4 of the way, or no, not 3/4, like a quarter of the way even like on. And so I got off of there and he's like, what'd you think of it? And I was like, it's all right. I mean, I didn't really notice much bass, and him and Alex thought that was so funny, but it was user error because I didn't have my volume up.
A 30 dB boost to the sub bass, and she was like, the bass was all right. I was like, what? So, but yeah, I mean, I listened to the Scarlett Mini again just because I know that's not going to be a lot of people's preference because that is just bass and it clouds up everything else. So it's more of like just let's just have some fun and just blast some bass in my ears for a little bit. But the Maestro Mini, I think Zachy actually recommended that I check out the Maestro Mini. And I think that's what I was checking out here in the picture was the Maestro Mini. And that was a good listen. I'm hoping, again, to have maybe something like that and to get a sample of, I think it was 500, something like that. Wasn't a bad price for something like that. And I thought it sounded good. Of course, it still had a lot of bass because that's kind of their thing, that they do the bass boost to their IEMs. But it was a good listen. And I like branching myself out a little bit more and listening to more IEMs. Let me switch back to live and check the comments here. Hey, thanks. Yeah, no, we have a lot of fun at these events. Yeah. And I have a lot of fun knowing that she has fun and isn't just saying, it's all right. No, she actually does have fun. And it's cool to now, as we've been going these, to actually like trade notes on some things. And yeah, that's why I said, don't cut yourself short. You know what you're talking about.
Well, and audio. I think too,
who cares if you have the right terminology and things? People talk to me about that all the time.
I think too is like you know you're coming at it from more knowledge, right? But like the average consumer doesn't necessarily know all the terms and everything that you throw out there. And so I think that like, you know, because sound is so subjective, I do think that like, you know, even though I downplay myself on this because it's an audio channel, it's like, I do understand, like, I still represent a lot of like what the consumers out there are. Like, you know, we all just love music, you know, you love sound, you love, you know, you want good quality. And so, I mean, that's what's so great about CanJam is to be able to like try all those different, you know, if it's something you're really interested in, if it's something, you know, you want to buy, but you want to save up for it, but you need to hear what it is, you know, what it sounds like. That's what's so great about CanJam. So, but yeah, I mean, I do think that even though I downplay myself, I understand like there's still there's the audiophiles out there that identify as true audiophiles. And then there's the people that are just general consumers who just want a good product. And, you know, so I'm not completely downplaying myself, but
no. I do want to take a couple of questions here. I got a little behind on this. The Aegis, yes. Aegis was excellent. I did talk about that at the top of the stream. Sorry that you missed that. There will be I'll have this on replay if you want to hear my thoughts. I didn't give a lot of detailed thoughts about it, honestly, with the Aegis, but it was just an excellent listen with the ZMF headphones, obviously, because that's the room that it was in with the Aegis. And then this is an interesting question from Urson. Both of you are an amazing couple. Yeah, we appreciate that. What do you expect for the upcoming 3 to 5 years to happen in the hi-fi headphones domain based on your experience and takeaways from CanJam? I got to tell you a couple of things that I hope doesn't happen because it's already starting to a little bit is the measurements thing. I mean, that's what we've been talking about so much for the last couple of years. I just don't want to see more and more companies feeling pigeonholed into tuning a certain way to hit a certain target. You have to hit something that everybody's going to like. I understand that, but I'm experiencing it with IEMs right now. When I'm talking about IEMs, I mean the budget, like Chi-Fi IEMs. So many of them sound the same to me with little deviations here and there. Of course, fit always is going to matter with that. And I just don't want to see that happen with headphones because... or any, not just headphones, but anything, IEMs as well, as far as, you know, the higher end gear. Like, we don't need to tune to that. And I think the other thing in the next 3 to 5 years, I hope doesn't continue to happen is some companies update things way too often than they need to. Hi-Fi Min comes to mind. Even though I love the Arya Organic, that was like the third Arya Hi-Fi Min headphone in like the last 3 years or something like that. And I'm not saying that's been too much, but it can become a problem because we're in a society that we always want to see the next thing and the next new thing. And so I think companies feel like they're getting left behind if they don't release something new. So, hey, you know, let's just retune this a little bit. Maybe we'll change the aesthetic and pop it out and give it to you guys. I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, but I saw this with like the Momentum 4 Sennheiser earbuds that I did my review on, and I was thankful they sent me the 3. Because the 3 and the 4 looked exactly the same. They updated some technology to them. And that's kind of my point. And no disrespect to Sennheiser. I mean, every company is kind of doing this in a sort of speak way. And that's what I hope doesn't happen is I think we need more excellent headphones like the Tungsten, these, small companies that are coming up and do a really nice job of things. Juan, that's making the Sierra. I can't remember his company name, but the Sierra headphone that I love so much. That's the kind of stuff I want to see more of, because you can be a little bit unique in your tuning and your design and everything. And it's exciting. But the measurements thing, I hope at some point hits a plateau, and it's not going to go away, but it's just becoming too much for me to where, like I said, I don't look at it that much. So, hopefully that kind of answers the question from my perspective. I'm not in it as deep as I want to be yet. I mean, I just got into hi-fi audio probably in the last 5 to 10 years, and really, really into headphones about 3 years ago, and then started my channel. So I'm nowhere near what I would say anything close to an expert level to answer that question, 100% of what I think. This is just kind of me, spitballing from what you're saying there. So hopefully that helped answer. What do you think?
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, that's like I said, I don't like to get on a tangent about measurements. It's a touchy subject with a lot of people. So the Auribus headphone, is that the Sierra? Am I getting that right? Let me scroll down and see if anybody said that. Come back to that. If that's what you're talking about, let me know. And yeah, exactly. What Krumuk, sorry if I said that wrong, is talking about, headphones describes feelings and experience. That's exactly why I told you that you're qualified to tell your thoughts, share your thoughts on a headphone. Yeah, the Sierra, is because you do just describe feelings and how it makes you feel. If a headphone makes you cry for your music, it's a damn good headphone. I'm not saying you have to cry, but I'm just saying, like, that's a good example of that. Yeah, the Sierra Brigo. What's up, my man? The Sierra Open definitely was an excellent headphone. I gave Juan some very positive feedback on how the sound of that is. And I would love to get some time to listen to that one. I like the design. It's unique. It's something different. Did not get a picture of that because we literally listened to it right before we left CanJam. So I didn't have my camera out for that.
I thought I took a picture of you on it.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I don't know. Get one. Maybe there is one.
We'll find one if we did. But yeah, that headphone was excellent. And a lot of praise to him too, because the reviewer panel, which I want to get into next, because I know we're already over an hour. The reviewer panel really gave a lot of praise to that headphone. That was cool. I told the guy he actually watched one of my latest videos and commented on there, and I told him, I was like, oh, it was my CanJam video, the reviewer CanJam video. Yeah, I mean, they gave him a lot of praise on that headphone, and it was well deserved. So he did a really nice job. He's not done yet, but he did a really nice job with that. All right, so unless if you guys have other things, pop them in there. I did want to talk about the reviewer panel, even though I know I posted the video on it. That wasn't my video. I wanted you guys to be able to see that, and I tried to do it justice with the audio, but I wanted to give kind of, just a couple of snippets of thoughts on that, I guess. Just from my own standpoint of things, if you guys, want to hear. But we were kind of talking about that as we were watching it. I actually didn't really pay that much attention to it as I was watching it, because I was trying to hold the camera still so well that my butt fell asleep.
He didn't bring a tripod, so no. He's trying to hold the camera where he could hand it
I kept switching between my knee to this, just so I could get a different perspective.
And I'm stuck there with like holding a microphone.
Yeah, you're welcome, Kermit.
Up like this the entire time. So
yeah, she's holding the microphone, I'm holding the camera, and it's like, what are they talking about? I don't know. I'm just trying to focus. But no, it was a really good panel, and there was a lot of good points brought up. There were some things that they talked about that, quite honestly, I'm not experienced with. Really, I think they brought up the spatial audio with the Apple Vision Pro, and yeah, I haven't experienced that myself, but they did bring up the measurements thing with manufacturers and reviewers, and how we can all get along a little bit better. I thought that was a good topic that they brought up with that.
I mean, I know you've tapped into it a little bit with measurements. Is there anything else like, if that were you up there, how would you have answered that? Like, but I know you've already kind of talked measurements so far, like in this video. Is there anything you'd add to that?
I mean, the biggest thing I would say is I agree with I agree with a lot of their answers as far as manufacturers need to understand, like, if you're going to produce something and somebody's going to measure it, they're just going to do it. So you may as well have your measurement done ahead of time to know what somebody's going to look at. But this is my whole point about the measurement boom, is that too many people just look at that squiggly and instantly want to give an opinion or say, that looks terrible, I don't want to listen to that. And I can't think that was their point. I was happy to hear them make that point, because I'll be honest, a couple of the guys up there, sometimes I had the opinion before of like, yeah, you guys focus too much on the measurement. Let's talk about this subjectivity of it, and let's talk about some track examples and things, and what did you actually hear and how did it make you feel, instead of just telling me about this peak line. But I was happy to hear them talk about that and talk about how they're a guide, but you can't use them as gospel basically for how a device is going to sound. So I thought that was good to see them. I don't want to say own up to it, because I know they own up to it, but I'm just saying, to admit that that's still a huge part of the hobby, was to talk about that. And it was just interesting to see Zach up there. A couple of times I could hear him kind of nodding his head along. I'm like, you want to say something here. No, he wasn't shy about saying anything. And it was a good panel, though. It was a lot of fun to watch. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed it much more after I got to watch it back and see all the answers. And Zio surprised me in a good way. I mean, he loves headphones.
Yeah.
I mean, that just comes through.
But he pointed out he loves speakers more.
Yeah, he did. But I mean, he loves headphones. And I mean, anybody that, thinks that, oh, geez, he loves everything. Well, if you love headphones, I mean, that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, I think he still knows when there's sounds that he doesn't like or things that don't fit his preference. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. ZMF wouldn't be there if Zach only listened to what people like. Yeah, and that's what a lot of manufacturers, that's what I was kind of talking about when I said the future of hi-fi, is that manufacturers need to be careful with not just reviewers, but just anybody in general that's posting measurements. And you can look at it and you can appreciate it, but you do you. Find something that Zach makes headphones that he likes, that he thinks sounds good, and then, hey, he produces them. Ryan Dietz from Mod House, when I asked him about the Tungsten, I was like, how did you come up with this tuning of the Tungsten? Well, he did have a panel of people that listened to him, but before he even got to that point, he's like, I made a headphone that I enjoy listening to. I mean, that's the basis point of it. Make something you enjoy, and then let some people listen to it. And typically you're going to find your crowd of people that's going to like your device, and we're not all going to like the same things, and that's part of the hobby.
Yeah.
The 800S vocal clear, bass my boot and amp. Just thinking if buying an Arya organic makes sense. Makes sense in what way? And are you thinking of moving on from any of those headphones? The Organic's an excellent headphone, but you've already got a pretty dang good lineup there, I got to tell you. What the Organic's going to get you, just looking at an 800S, for example, the 800S, when I heard it, as everybody says, can be light on bass. If you put it on tubes, it can open it up a little bit more, but it can be light on bass. The Organic's going to give you more of that. Spaciousness wise, obviously the 800S has got that, but the Organic is a spacious headphone, and I do like the staging on it. But then the Edition XS, for the price it's coming in at, I only had a brief listen. I liked it, and same thing with the Sundara. Amp pairings aren't going to be quite as picky with the Organic, I can tell you that. It's a very easy to drive HiFi headphone, especially with the Aryas go. You like the Organic?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you listen to... for vocals, the Organic's really good for vocals, because that's what she mostly listens to.
Yeah.
Somebody asked you a while back, and I didn't mean to skip on from it. What are your music preferences?
I'm kind of all over the place. I will say one of the songs that is my go-to song for trying out different headphones, and I mentioned this last year too. It's funny because I don't listen to a lot of his music, but I did Ryan Adams' Wonderwall. Because his version is just very, there's a lot of acoustic guitar and just his voice, and it's beautiful. So it's easy for me to kind of have that in my playlist and get a good judge on if what I'm hearing is, and that's what I was saying, like with different headphones, I could tell if an artist didn't sound like an artist, or sound like how they should. And then, I mean, some of the other stuff, I tried Bjork's, I think it's pronounced Yoga. It's the Joga song. My sister got me into that a long, long time ago when I was like 12. So, and then of course I'll sometimes listen to Adele, or I'll listen to, some Sarah Bareilles. And then I listen to Christian music as well. So, but a lot of singer-songwriter voice forward, music. If I'm going for something that's bassier, I might try out some, Billie Eilish. I feel like there was maybe a Katy Perry song I have in there too that has a little bit of bass and some stuff, but that's just a general idea of what's on my playlist for what I listen to, that I can just think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, you do listen to a variety of things. I can definitely vouch for that.
And then obviously I mentioned Stevie a couple times. So I love Fleetwood Mac. I love some of the old stuff as well. So I don't listen to a lot of rock or metal. I like rock. I just don't put it on my playlist to check out, as far as like how headphones go and whatnot. I don't really listen to a lot of country. So, but I love my singer-songwriter stuff.
Yeah. You love music, and that qualifies you for all of this.
Yeah, and across all genres too. So
I did want to show the Mytek amp. This was set up right outside there. Very pretty amp. I just was kind of stumbling across some pictures as Bree was talking there and wanted to show you guys that. I think what I'll wrap up with is our favorite headphones that we heard at CanJam, because we hadn't really talked. I mean, you probably have picked up on some of that based off of what I've said. Oh, actually, no. I'm sorry. Warren, I almost didn't do you justice. I apologize. We got to talk the Eletek prototype.
Okay.
I am.
You listen. I didn't get a chance to listen to it. Yeah.
That was me. So, and I don't have a picture because it was just black, because it was literally a prototype.
I mean, I took some pictures, but maybe you didn't put it in
You
there.
did. Yeah. I can try to find them. Actually,
Yeah.
I can't talk and scroll at the same time. That's okay.
Okay.
So there's a mouse if you want to try.
I don't even
just
know.
click here.
I'm like,
Sorry,
don't know
guys.
where you're looking up.
So the Eletek booth cable company had a new prototype IM that's coming out, and in the few $1,000s range. So it's not anything that's going to be cheap. Eletek doesn't make cheap cables, guys. Anybody that follows them knows that, but they're beautiful, well designed, very well sounding cables. And Warren gave me a tip to go check out their prototype. And when I sat down and listened to it, actually myself and Alex both got a chance to listen to it. And it was an incredible listen. It was just, I mean, again, I want more sit down time to have more detailed notes than just tell you the normal things about it was spacious. But it did. I mean, it had like everything I like. A touch bright for me. But so is the Arya Organic, and I own that. So, I mean, there's things that can be a touch bright or a touch bassy or something like that. And overall, it's going to make up for enough of the other parts of the sound. And that was kind of the prototype from Eletek of what I got the impression of, was that it was just such a good listen on my RU7, since I had that paired up there with my own source. So I got to listen to my own music on it, and I was very impressed. But here's what I will say, which when I first got into the hobby, one of the first things that I saw being talked about was cables. And I was one of those people that was like, come on, cables? I mean, really? I mean, it's the headphone, it's everything else, but somebody trying to tell me cables make a difference, I just...
You want to put the cable up there?
Yeah, I just shrugged them off with that kind of stuff.
Oh, whoops, yeah.
And so,
yeah,
I gotta say, with the prototype, the first listen I had was with their silver cable. And I know for me, at least, when I've listened to IEMs, especially is when I notice it, silver cables, they are brighter to me. So I was like, okay, well, this is a touch bright. Let me try the copper cable that they had, which I think that's the copper cable. It looks like it, that I'm holding up there. And that's, sorry, color correction. So I believe that was the silver there too. But anyway, so when I switched over to the copper cable, everything kind of became more intimate, a little bit fuller on the sound. And at first I was like, oh, this is more my jam of what I liked. But the more and more I listened, I was like, no, this is actually too intimate. And these are just some of the very pretty designs
gorgeous.
That they had. Now, granted, the prototype's just all black, so these are just the shells of some prototype shells. But it was, that was gorgeous there too. But yeah, I mean, it was such a good IM. I am hoping that I will be able to actually get that in to get an extended listen on and to be able to talk about it some more, because it was so good to hear at CanJam, and I was glad that Warren recommended I go check it out. That was actually one of the 2 recommendations I had for IMs to check out. I think the Maestro Mini was the other one, and both were dead on accurate. They were both very good for what I listened to. But yeah, Eletek, if that's their first one they're jumping into, they've got something special that they were making there. And yes, yeah, exactly. If you read Warren's chat there, I would definitely agree with that synopsis there of the sound of it. It was just excellent. Anthony, thanks for joining the stream, man. I will hopefully catch you again on another stream. Thanks for joining us here. But yeah, the other prototype I actually listened to was I think Elysium. Sebastian was there at the Elysium booth, and they had a couple of different ones I heard. I need more time with that. Oh, thank you, Urson. I appreciate that. I need more time with that particular IM as well, which I think I'm going to get some time with eventually, because they had 2. This is the other thing I like with vendors when they do this, is some of them will bring, if they have a prototype, they'll bring 2 types so you can listen and give them your feedback. And DMS mentioned this. That was another thing I wanted to mention about the AMA panel. And he had so many good points during that panel. And one of the points he said was, typically when you listen to something, a good manufacturer, and most of them do this, are going to ask you, well, what did you think of that? They don't ask you, so did you like that? And it never really occurred to me until DMS said that. I'm like, yeah, he's right. I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. So when it tells me kind of for the future, like when somebody asks me, what did you think of that? I'm going to stop going, it sounded good. Because now I feel bad, because they probably want to know more details than it sounded good.
Sounds like my answer.
Yeah. Well, and I started giving more opinions than that, especially like Elysium. Eletek asked me, and that's when I told him about the touch of brightness and things. And hey, what is one thing you'd change about that? But that's the other thing I really appreciate about the manufacturers there. They were legit wanting feedback about their products. And even if it was a finished product, because, hey, they may make another version of something in the future that they can tweak for the consumer. So, yeah, that was a very cool thing. So, all right. So the Eletek thing was definitely on one of my top 3, I would say, overall things that I heard, because usually it's headphones, but that was a really solid listen. I would say the Sierra prototype, or not even prototype, I think he's done with it. He's just tweaking some design things on it. But the Sierra was up there as well for being just one guy making a headphone, kind of like Ryan Dietz a Mod House. Yeah, I mean, that was impressive of a listen. And the Boca Open. I mean, I told Zach, he's probably got tired of me telling him, but I was like, man, I love the Boca Open.
I think a lot of people loved it though. So
I think they did too. And I think the funny thing about it was, I think Zach probably had to put a lot more effort in. Okay. If you're watching this, I know you put effort into every headphone, but I'm saying, like, to tune a closed back is a lot more difficult. He's even said that. And going from closed to open, I'm sure wasn't as difficult of a challenge, I would imagine, as the closed. And I think he was kind of, at least the way I was trying to read the room, seemed a little taken back by how many people really loved the Boca Open, but it was a really...
I think DMS even said that was...
He did.
Yeah.
No, he did. Favorites. It was a very good sounding headphone. I'm excited for that one when he... I think it's June that he's planning on having the release for it. And I love the look of it. It doesn't look like other ZMFs. That's the other reason why I like it.
We need one in green.
Yes. Yes, that'd be great. What about you? Probably the Diana MR.
The Diana, the Boca. Yeah, those were probably my 2 favorites. Yeah. I mean, I was trying to take notes too, but
I'm not the Scarlet Mini. Just kidding.
Like I said, it did cross my mind. Maybe I needed to turn the volume up on the phone, but okay. I didn't want to keep unplugging them from my ear because they were so hard to. Because, like I said, I have such a struggle with them in my ear.
And then I would say, from an experience standpoint, the last thing I'll throw in is the DCS Room. From an experience standpoint, just hearing that stack on the LCD5 in a nice closed session, just a very chill atmosphere.
It is. It's like a very intimate atmosphere.
It was.
It's it feels fancy. You know that it's very, very high end, but like the actual reps in there are so personable and engaging and just friendly. And, you know, they don't act like, you know, even though it's, you know, their stuff is probably more out of like what the average consumer can afford. They don't act like stuffy about it. They're just very welcoming to everybody. It's really cool.
Yeah, definitely were. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. We got a couple of kids to go pick up. Yeah. I don't know. We could let them stay there the whole night and just forget about them. I mean, they're safe.
They love their grandma.
So. She's probably watching this going, no. I'm kidding. So
we usually have a time limit on how long we can leave them.
Yeah, and I wanted to go a little bit longer on this one because there was a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm sure I missed a couple of things. You know, every CanJam I pick up a little bit more and more, and I cannot wait to get to the next one. I don't know if I'll make it to SoCal, we've been talking, or Dallas this year. I mean, New York as a couple to go was a little pricey for us, so we're going to see how things go. If I do go, I say I because it probably will just be me, because getting the both of us away is probably not going to happen for either SoCal or Dallas.
We counted New York as our 10-year wedding anniversary trip. So.
Yes, 10 year is coming up in May. So, and I think New York's going to be a yearly trip. It was a ton of fun in New York, and that's why I didn't want to bore you guys too much with the non-CanJam stuff in New York, but the restaurants, the food. Oh, I got to drop a plug for Turntable. If you guys are in New York, I think they have a couple of restaurants we found out, but there is a restaurant called Turntable, and I got some pictures if you want to talk about it for a quick second.
Really cool restaurant. So this is what's really funny. We walked around for a while. I mean, we walked blocks and blocks and blocks. And so we ended up back in Koreatown where we were the night before. We didn't actually know this was also a Korean restaurant when we walked in, but it was called Turntable Chicken Jazz. So of course we liked the name of it. It kind of looked like a little hole in the wall. It had a very small sign. It was like a very, like you almost wouldn't know it was there if you didn't see the sign. So we went into it and just loved the interior, the decor. Everything was like really fun. We sit down. We realized it's Korean food like we had the night before, and we had such a great experience that we were just like, cool, we get to have it again.
I swear, I looked at that and I was like, that's a cost pro for AA. It's not, but it sure looks like one.
Yeah, and then the funny thing was, like, as we're sitting there eating, like I said, we walked for over an hour, just like checking the city out, deciding where we wanted to eat. And we just picked this one little place out of nowhere.
That's so cool. Miles Davis there.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, it really is. And then suddenly the whole panel from the reviewers panel walked in with multiple friends. Like they had so many people in their party, they had to have 2 big tables apart from each other. But it was just really funny that out of the whole city, like we've got all of New York City, we walk for an hour, we pick this one little place, and then in comes everybody from the panel and everything. So we didn't, try to go up or talk to them or anything, but we just found it interesting that out of all of New York City, they ended up at the same restaurant as us.
Hey, thanks guys for the 10 years. I appreciate that. And
thank you.
I'm not going to try to say his name, but I guess I will. Havingal, or enjoy your weekend as well. Thanks for joining the stream. Yeah, that restaurant was incredible. And yeah, it was funny to see all the reviewers walking in, and I think Mark from Super Reviews, Andrew and DMS and Golden Sound, Corinne, they were all there, and I didn't talk to any of them, to be honest. And that wasn't me being like a jerk or anything like that. I'm just weird about, when people are out in public and bothering them and approaching. I'm not good with, hey, Warren, am I good with approaching people? I mean, it's just something I'm not good at. So, but it was cool to see them there enjoying it. And I could see everybody taking pictures. Like, if you're an audiophile, that's the place to go, because it was such an incredible atmosphere, and the food was really good. Yeah. So,
and then on our walk back, we actually noticed there was another location. Now it was closed, but it was called Turntable Chicken Rock. So I don't know if it's a different menu or if it's just like the decor and the music is different, but it was just a really cool experience. So yeah.
And that wrapped up our night, which is fitting because that'll kind of wrap up this stream, because then the next day was Monday when we were heading out. So but thank you guys for joining the stream. Those that are still here, I know a couple of people have left. I know it's been a little bit longer of a stream, but we had a ton of fun. I wanted to share that experience with you guys. It was a lot of fun to hang out at New York and to meet so many new people. It was really cool. I got to say, for me, like, I don't want to fail to say, there were some people that came up to me and just said, like, hey, I watch your videos. It was nice being able to see you in person. And I enjoyed meeting the few people that came up to me and said that. And it was just funny because I told Bree, I think there was, I remember how many. There's just a handful. But out of that handful, at least 3 of them said, hey, I found you from your Atrium video, whether it was the open or closed. And I was like, that's really cool that they found me on those videos. They were from a while back. And of course, the first thing that came to my mind was, did you buy it? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, did you like it? Because I was like, if I ever, influence somebody to buy something, I sure hope they like it. And all of them said they did. So that was good. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just very, very fun to meet people like that as well. And just, I don't know, add some more enjoyment back to me for doing this channel that I enjoy so much doing. So, yeah. Okay. Well, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekends out there. Thanks for joining on the stream. And any last words of wisdom?
No, I don't think I do.
Turn the volume up on your phones if you're going to have a dongle connected to an IM. I'm kidding. I mean, you don't always have to do that. It depends on how you have it set up. And that's my fault, guys. Honestly, that is not her fault. That's my fault for not setting up her phone correctly with the dongle being the audio guy that I am. So, yeah. Anyways. All right, guys. I'll see you. Have a good weekend.
Bye.